actually used area a lot in what we've done so far, and the main thing we've used it for is when we're looking at floor plans. You know, what's the square footage of a house? What's the square footage of the first floor, of the second floor? Typically, most houses are not going to be a nice, pretty rectangle, a nice, pretty triangle, something that we already know the area of. So when we're presented with floor plans or with any kind of multiple shapes kind of put together, all we gotta do is split it up into things that we know, things we recognize, things we can find the area of. Typically, we've been using rectangles and triangles. You could always use trapezoids, parallelograms, anything else, but rectangles and triangles seem to be the easiest thing. So this is the picture I'm given. Alright, and this is my floor plan. Typically, I'm going to give it to you in feet because that's what we typically use to measure floor plans in the United States. If you go to England, you will be using meters, so don't freak out about that. So first thing I do, I see this big shape, and there's two ways to go about it. I could split it up first, or I could find all my missing sides. I tend to like to split it up first. That's the way I like to do it, so I'm just going to go that way. And there's many, many ways you can split this up. I typically see vertical lines. This is just the way my brain happens to work. I know some of you guys see horizontal lines right away. So I'm going to do this one both ways. Alright, so here's my shape. And these are all the measurements of the sides, all in feet. I see that I could split it this way. And split this into 4 rectangles. Then all I have to do is find the measurements of these rectangles, find the area of each one, and then add them all together to find the total area. Okay? So, let's deal with the rectangle on the left first. If I kind of look, one of my favorite things to do, as you guys have seen in class, there's my rectangle, right? Kind of cut off from everything else. I need to know this length and the width to find the area, right? But I already know the width. The width is 14. The length, this one's pretty easy. This length is 42, right? So this one's going to be 14 by 42. And since that's pretty easy, 14 times 42 is just going to give us 588. Right? Alright, then I go to look at my next rectangle. Again, it's kind of cut off. Alright? I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that because I need to kind of see everything here. Alright, looking at this rectangle, I need to know this length. Because it's not 42, it's less than 42, but it's going to be more than that 23 over there. Alright? For me, the easiest way to find this, I'm going to kind of write it up here, is going to be the 42, which is that whole side there that's in green, minus that 10 feet, because it's 10 feet less. So that tells me this side there is 32 feet. So the area of this one's going to be 6, because that's my width, times 32. Again, that's a pretty easy one. You could do that on paper. 6 times 32 gives me 192. Alright. Going on to our next rectangle. We'll use pink this time. Alright, I gotta find the length and the width. The width we already know is 7, right? Okay. A couple of different ways you can go about this. One way you can do is you could find this chunk here and how big that is. That's actually going to be the more difficult way, so I'm going to kind of go the other way. I see that this length is the blue one minus the 5. So I'm going to take 32 minus 5 to give me that length, and that should give me 27. So this rectangle is 7 by 27. Again, these multiplications you could do on paper. I know it's faster to go in the calculator sometimes, but you always want to keep those skills fresh on paper. Gives me 189 square feet for that rectangle. And then I got to look at the last one. And which color haven't we used? We haven't used purple yet. Alright, and I need to know my width and my length. And this one's pretty easy, right? This is just 10 by 23, which gives me 230. And then to finish off the problem, all I do is take all of these, the area of each rectangle, and then I add them all together, right? 588 plus 192 plus 189 plus 230. Again, this is definitely one you could do out on paper. It's not too difficult to do. You could use a calculator, but It's always nice to know that you can do it by hand. This should give you 1,199 square feet. Because remember, area is in 2 dimensions. That's why we've got that little 2 that's squared there. Now, if you forget your units, this time I'm not going to count it against you on this final because that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for your knowledge about units. I'm looking for your knowledge about how to figure out the answer. When we get to the foundation, though, which is coming up in about less than a month, units become extremely important. So don't think that I don't care about them. But in this case, I'm more worried about the number rather than the unit. So if you forget your units, that's okay. Alright, ready for another example? This one a little bit more difficult, not too bad. It's got a triangle kind of stuck on it there. Oh, I said I was going to do the other one in all different ways, didn't I? Alright, so remember that was 1,199 square feet. So let's get rid of all this work. Kind of going backwards here. If the thing would listen to me. Alright, so back to the beginning on this one. Same one, we should still come up with 1,999 square feet. But I'm going to split it up differently because I know a lot of you see it this way instead. A lot of you are going to see it horizontally. And that's fine. Either way you go, you should still get the exact same answer. Alright? Alright, so again, I've got 4 rectangles. I need to find the area of each one. Add them all up. The top one, I need to know my length and my width. Well, that one's pretty easy. That's 14 by 10, right? Which should give me 140. I know that's kind of small. I had to squish it in there. Alright, the next one. I forget which color I use next, so we're just kind of... Alright, the next one. This length by the width. Well, I know it's 5 here, right? The length, you see the 14 plus the 16, give me a length of 20. So this is going to be 20 by 5, which is going to give me 100. Right? Our next rectangle. This is one, we're going to have to figure out this width there, right? The length we can do. A couple of ways. We could either say it's the 14 plus the 6 plus the 7. Or you could say it's the whole back thing minus 10. Either way. I can like 14 plus 6 plus 7. That gives me 27. Now, here's how we find the width on this. We know the whole thing, width-wise, let me grab a different color here. We know the whole thing is 42, right? And we know this piece is 10, this piece is 5, this one's 23. So this must be whatever else adds to those 3 to get 42. So I'm going to take 42 minus 10 minus 5 minus 23 to get my answer there. Right? 42 minus 10 minus 5 minus 23 gives me 4. So that width is 4. So this rectangle here is 27 by 4. Now, one of the big mistakes I've seen people do on these big rectangles, they would take 42 by 23 there. Last color. I've seen people take 42 by 23 because they think I've never used that 42 and it must be that length. But remember, 42 is the whole thing. Okay? So, shouldn't be 42 by 23. It's definitely 23 by something, right? Because that's our width. Then we got to look at our length. It's the whole thing. And the whole thing added together is going to be 14 plus 6 plus 7 plus 10, which should give me 37. So this rectangle is 23 by 37. Okay, and 23 by 37 will give me 851. Oh, I forgot to multiply my last one, didn't I? 27 by 4 is going to give me 108. And I add those together. 108 plus 851 plus 100 plus 140, and I still get 1,199 square feet.